If you've been experiencing social anxiety symptoms for some time now, it's easy to not even recognize them after a little bit. After all, when you spend so much time living in fear and constant worry over social interactions, the symptoms can feel just like a regular part of life. And I specifically remember that feeling of adrenaline pumping through my veins anytime I was put on the spot in a social situation. Things as seemingly innocent as just walking into my office building every morning created a pit of butterflies in my stomach. I worked in a big corporate building where the entranceway was this huge atrium, and people would pass through the revolving doors in hordes, and coworkers were constantly trying to make conversation all the way up to my floor. The "How was your weekend?" became the bane of my existence, as I would struggle every Monday morning to mutter something comprehensible that would satisfy the asker. Now, maybe you're familiar with some of the social anxiety symptoms that I felt. They included a racing heartbeat, a sense of uncontrollable panic, difficulty swallowing or speaking, stuttering, uncertainty of where to position your hands or body, paralyzing fear, hyper self-consciousness, paranoia, low self-esteem, poor eye contact, depression, a tense, easily aggravated personality. I would isolate myself by choice, separation of friends, family, and members of the opposite sex, and just a feeling of being uncomfortable in your own skin, as I like to say. And of course, there are tons of other symptoms, but these are just some of the more common ones. And these social anxiety symptoms all became commonplace in the wake of my intensified social anxiety, which really grew much worse after college. Now, I'd always been a shy kid, and the degree of my social anxiety only heightened year by year as I let the problem grow by the wayside. I never addressed it, and it led to a life that I became afraid of. And maybe that's where you're at now. Social anxiety symptoms, they've overtaken every moment out in public, and it feels like there's no solution. I'm happy to tell you that there is, and I'm talking to you right now from the other side of that story. I distinctly remember missing out on my sister's surprise 30th birthday party because I couldn't deal with the social dynamics of the gathering. It was just too overwhelming for me to take on. And when I called my sister the next day to apologize, she told me that she completely understood and that she knows those kinds of parties are challenging for me. So we're pretty close, and she's always been sort of the rock that I could turn to. No matter how debilitating my social anxiety became, my sister was the one person I could turn to and feel comfortable with no matter what. And hearing her tell me that she accepts my social shortcomings turned a switch and forever changed my future. Because I felt like a victim hearing her say that, and I felt like the anxiety had won, and it was over, and the comforting words that she was doling out, they nailed the coffin shut. I just felt like a loser. It was that same low self-esteem that had kept me down in all my social interaction, masking the reality of the situation. I could change at any time. So after I got off the phone with my sister, I swore to myself that that was the low point of my social anxiety, and I wasn't going to let the problem tear me away from the one person it had never affected before. So it was sort of like my social anxiety had crossed the line. And it took this kind of experience to make me stand up for myself by saying no to the fear and finding some way, really any way, to fix this horrible way of living. My crushing social anxiety symptoms, they're no more, and it didn't come easy. Getting over that anxiety took time, it took persistence, and a very specific approach, one that took 11 years to really perfect. See, when I first set out to eliminate my social anxiety, I had no idea what I was doing. First, I would speak with counselors and therapists, but it never felt like they really knew what I was going through. And sure, they were insanely smart and very profound with their advice, but they just couldn't empathize with me. Plus, it felt like they were sort of just listening and kind of trying to rationalize my thoughts for me without giving me a real action plan to getting better. So after working with therapists and counselors for a few years, I had reached a plateau with my progress, and I understood why I was afraid in social situations, but that didn't make the social anxiety symptoms any better to bear. So it was then that I started devising ways to counterattack the anxiety with strategies that actually put me into the social situation. So I began to control social interactions, and that control allows you to realize that the fear is something you can either accept or move beyond. And these step-by-step techniques are what broke the endless cycle of my social anxiety symptoms and allowed me to move on to enjoy a life that's filled with possibility and gratitude. And the same will happen for you. If you're stuck in a rut and want to take advantage of the research that took me 11 years to condense into a single online course, I want you to check out the free video series that I have at socialanxietyfix.com. And really, it's going to give you relief within minutes. So go ahead and check out socialanxietyfix.com right now, and just sign up and grab that free video series. I'm going to show you actionable exercises that you can actually implement into daily life to have measurable progress in your social anxiety and diminish these symptoms to nothing. So go ahead and check it out. I'll see you there. Take care.